Phrenology is the outdated study of linking skull shape to personality. While the measurement of skull shape and morphology has strong roots in actual science, phrenology makes assumptions beyond what is provable. When German physician Franz Joseph Gall developed his theory of phrenology in 1796, his studies focused mainly on the neurocranium, the housing of the brain, as he believed it to shape the formation of the skull, as certain parts were used more and more. For instance, saying things like people with outgoing personalities must have 2 small bumps on their forehead because they use that part of their brain more. To bury this theory for the final time, in 2018, scientists from the University of Oxford's Department of Clinical Neuroscience tried to find a correlation between 6,000 MRI scans and the participants' response in a personality questionnaire. As one would expect, there was no correlation. While phrenology itself may be pseudoscience, the study of skull shapes, craniometry, is incredibly important in forensic reconstruction. From physical anthropology in forensic medicine, detectives can guess the gender, age, ethnicity, height, physical build, and unique facial traits, all from bits of human skull remains. The part that I've always found interesting is how the skull shape differs by ethnicity to adapt to the environment. While this is a sensitive topic that's been shrouded in racist undertones for centuries, the science is still true that there are a range of skull shapes and sizes. How we justify using this knowledge has changed for the better in the last 300 years. Facial reconstruction from the early 1900s has revolved around sculpting soft tissue over a hard dentofacial frame such as a skull. The skull shape changes a lot by race, as found by Fang et al. And other anthropological studies. In particular, the forehead contour, where a sharp incline is seen as far more masculine than a rounded forehead. Former model Godfrey Gao is a good example. Being mixed race with many phenotypically Asian features, he has a sharp forehead contour with a prominent brow ridge. Notice how the forehead inclination matches the inclination of his nose. This is the nasofacial angle, and the difference between a handsome side profile versus a plain one is harmony between the nose and forehead. It's easier to change the contour of your nose with a rhinoplasty than to change the shape of your forehead with multiple brow implants. I used Godfrey Gao deliberately because Asian foreheads are the most neotenized and rounded. This is great for women for making them appear soft and cute, but not so for men. As Doug Jones hypothesizes, it's a byproduct of sexual selection for more youthful-looking women. In these examples, the men have very rounded foreheads, and they're not cherry-picked either. It's simply a part of skull morphology. Men with sharper foreheads appear more dominant by being angular, which also visually makes the hairline appear less receded, especially at the temples. For aesthetics, I'd argue that having a steep, rounded forehead to be the most unideal for men, having a flat but steep forehead to be somewhere in the middle, and a shallow flat one to be the most ideal for masculinity. For women, it would be the opposite, because we go from more feminine to more masculine dimorphic traits. Phrenology gets a lot of things wrong, but these depictions from over 100 years ago are still accurate in identifying masculine versus feminine dimorphic facial traits, and explain why we're attracted to certain features on men and women over others. Steep rounded foreheads can still be attractive given that they're proportionate with a youthful hairline, as it's a neotenous trait and thus requires other youthful features. Otherwise, inclined foreheads have the inherent advantage of being masculine by being able to get away with a lot more hair recession and not look babyface. Subscribe to the channel for the full breakdown on hairstyles for men and women. Moving away from the forehead, let's discuss the skull shape. Anthropologist Ashley Montagu noted that the neocranium of modern humans has thinner skull bones, lacks brow ridges and sagittal crests, with larger, more developed brains. These are the facial patterns of our early Neanderthal ancestors who were more focused on survival than greater thought. In biology, we use the terms gracile, meaning slender, to describe modern humans, versus robust to describe Neanderthal morphology. For instance, the sagittal crest provides an anchor for extremely strong jaw muscles to develop. As brain sizes increased, this ridge got smaller. Also notice that the skull is very dolichocephalic, meaning that it is longer than it is wide from the front. There is a bias towards shorter, wider skulls for aesthetics, with narrow skulls being less resemblant of the modern human skull. In anthropometry, we use what's known as a cephalic index, which is simply a ratio of width over length. These are the classifications for skull shape provided by Sala et al. 1957, from very long and narrow to very short and wide. Now you may be wondering why there's only data provided for 2 races and 1 ethnic group, which itself is very vague. This particular dataset comes from Canadian surgeon Leslie Farkas, who pioneered the field of anthropometry, going around and measuring the bodies from head to toe of people from different races. His system of measurement in anthropometry of the head and face in medicine is the basis of nearly every anthropometric measurement you'll see on this channel or a modern plastic surgeon using. Unfortunately, Farkas died before getting around to documenting every ethnic group, but his work was carried on by scientists in their respective countries. Moving on, let's consider the contour of the skull. The way your occipital bone is shaped is important for making your skull less dolichocephalic. Neanderthal skulls had a long occipital bone, which is unaesthetic nowadays as it's a robust feature that was designed for survival and does not reflect the refined fragileness of the modern human. As you can imagine, a long ovoid shape is stronger across its length for face-first impacts than a spherical shape. The occipital bone can be reduced by essentially shaving down the skull to a more normal mesocephalic shape, but that depends on the thickness of the neurocranium. Likewise, any uneven depressions in the skull can be just as detrimental for aesthetics, but can also be fixed with implants. We can't discuss the contour of the skull without touching on the popular angel vs. witch or warrior vs. wimp skull concept. What people in the past have referred to as a witch skull, horrible, I know, is actually a result of poor dentofacial development rather than just the shape of the neurocranium itself. In this free body diagram by F.B. Naney, the skull is drawn as one solid block, and granted that there are sutures in place that allow some movement between the cranium fragments, your brain isn't doing jumping jacks inside to push your skull to take on an undesirable shape. However, during maturity, parts of the cranium can be molded with external force while they're still soft, for instance in Peruvian head binding. In some cases, the occipital may flatten itself naturally due to your sleeping positions as an infant, but having proper facial growth is much more important and noticeable for aesthetics than worrying about the shape of your skull. Unlike your neurocranium, the jaw saddle and its components can move much more independently of one another as you chew and grow, and are subject to a lot of different force vectors in different directions. As these units are stacked on top of each other, they're dependent on each other's location in determining the final face. The so-called witch or wimp appearance comes from a lack of forward dentofacial growth, and not just the shape of your skull. So to summarize, having a dolichocephalic skull shape that's long and oval is a remnant of our hunter-gatherer ancestors. Modern humans have evolved to spherical and brachiocephalic skulls, which are much more gracile and prioritize brain size at the expense of protection. Having physical features that resemble a Neanderthal neurocranium is unaesthetic, as it's not koinophilic for the modern human. This can include an overly prominent brow ridge, sagittal crest, or long occipital bone. If you're a woman with the supposed witch skull, the focus should be on your dentofacial development rather than fussing about your skull shape. Do you have a recessed jaw? Does your nasal contour match your forehead contour, etc.? There are plenty of women who can pull off a wide range of skull shapes as the rest of their face is still proportionate. If you're a man with a long occipital bone and short hair, you're better off getting the occipital bone shaved down if it bothers you that much. However, having strong dentofacial features is again much more important for aesthetics. In this example, the man has a sharp, angular jaw, his forehead is inclined back, his nasal contour is straight, and although it doesn't perfectly match his forehead, it's still handsome. If you look closely at the back of his head, he has an occipital bun, a long occipital bone, and a relatively dolichocephalic skull. Unless you make your living as a bald model, the shape of your skull should be low on the list of things to worry about.